Welcome to Pure Intuitive Talk with me, Trish Smith. I'm a multi-dimensional channeler sharing my gift to assist others to connect and work with their whole being, helping bring them into a beautiful way of high-frequency living. Immerse yourself in an hour of nourishment that feeds your spiritual journey and invites you to embrace your empowered soul. You'll feel armed with new understandings for how to shift from pain to love as we explore topics from shamanic sound healing to gut health. Are you ready to take accountability for the impact that we have on the world around us and learn new tools and techniques to feel whole again? Of course you are, and you're in the right place. Pure Intuitive Talk starts now. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. You're listening to Pure Intuitive Talk. I'm your host, Trish Smith, and my business is Pure Intuitive Guide, where I am a holistic life coach. I'm also a medium, a yoga instructor, and an author, and also the host of this show, Pure Intuitive Talk. Something has been calling me. I know that I've been called to start speaking on discernment for this episode. And so we're going to go through a lot of different ways in which discernment affects our lives. It affects our relationships. It affects everything about ourselves as a person, and how using our discernment and practicing discernment, because it is a skill that we can develop. It's a conscious awareness. And by practicing using our discernment, we can develop that skill and we can become better and better and better at it. And then we will have less hiccups in our lives, less hiccups in our own decision-making, less hiccups in our relationships. So I know that I'm being called to speak on discernment, but let me tell you, I am also being called to use my discernment just like the rest of us are. So when I talk about these things, I don't exclude myself. I myself can find myself speculating and having to remind myself to go back, take a step back, take those breaths, look at the forest for the trees, and start using my own discernment. So it's not only part of one of my gifts, but it's also a practice that I bring myself back to on a regular basis, because it's important to me to use my discernment in my daily life with myself, with my relationships, with my decisions anywhere in the world on an ongoing basis. And it's important that each one of us is using discernment. So discernment defined. Right. So discernment by definition is the ability to judge well. Not just the ability to judge, not the ability to look at something and make a decision, but the ability to do it well. And by speaking on that, we have to remember the ability to do it well is going to take some practice, because we have to practice implementing the pause. We have to practice implementing paying attention to whether or not we are speculating or we are casting judgment. So it's very much a look in the mirror type of practice. It's very much a catch ourselves, stop, use discernment, go forward. So that being said, it's also so much about wisdom, right? And our serenity prayer, for people that use Al-Anon, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that's where that discernment comes in. That's that wisdom, the wisdom to know the difference. And so most of us have been alive quite a while. We've been on the earth many, many years, many moons, many cycles. And so we have the wisdom. We've been gaining wisdom. We have life lessons. We've experienced so much. We've experienced suffering and joy and loss and contentment and all of it. And so we have gained wisdom, and we are capable of using our discernment. I believe that sometimes we forget. I believe that sometimes we get caught up in the emotion, or we get caught up in our own speculations, which I myself have been guilty of, and also have witnessed many others between friends and family over my lifetime also make the same mistake of speculating. So remembering to use our discernment, remembering that we want to judge well. We want to look at all of the evidence and look at all of the options and make decisions from there. So with that in mind, with using our discernment, we're living in a time where there's a lot of good versus evil spiritual warfare. Obviously, that's been going on since the beginning of time. And as we all know, it'll be going on till the end of time. So we have to remember that when we're using discernment, that we want to be able to tune in and recognize, like, where are these energies coming from? Where are the thought processes that we're having coming from? So, for example, if I have a friend and I maybe believe that they're upset with me because I haven't heard from them, I have options, right? I catch myself, this is how I work with myself. I catch myself maybe starting to take it personally. They haven't gotten back to me yet. Did I say something wrong, right? I'm assuming that we're all guilty of taking things personally, a part of our lives at times. And so I have two options at that point, right? I can either decide that, yes, they're upset with me. I know it. And I can start to speculate. I can start to go, this is why they're upset with me. Or I can start speculating the other direction. Oh, maybe they're busy, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I'm still speculating, because the truth at the end of it is that I don't know. I don't know why they haven't gotten back to me. Maybe they are busy. Maybe they are upset with me. But the truth is that I don't know. And so once I start speculating, I'm going to start losing my discernment. And so using our discernment is absolutely wanting to use the facts that are in front of us, what we do know, what we've seen or witnessed for ourselves. And then also, too, in the spiritual warfare, remembering to have love at the core of it. So as far as using our discernment to help us grow our authenticity, we want to make sure that we are focused in love. And that's the cracking the code right there. So if we're using our discernment, we're thinking, seeing, viewing our situation through our love filter, that is where God, or you can call it the universe, or whatever word language we want to use for it, but that is where we can make our best decisions. That is where we can see value in others. We can see value in our situation. We can make amends. We can unite. There's so many beautiful things that come about when we are judging well. And we have to pay attention in our spiritual warfare that is always going to be going on, that we are serving the side that we want to serve. So if we're serving the light, if we're serving God, serving the universe, the love, unity, whatever language we want to use for it, we have to remember to use that filter when we're discerning. So sometimes we don't trust ourselves. Sometimes maybe we don't trust others. And that's something that we need to pay attention to when we are deciding inside of our minds what's going on, when we don't actually know sometimes. So with all of the turmoil that's been going on over the last few years and all of the division, not that we haven't experienced division all throughout history, it just seems like a lot of people are having so many heartaches, I see so much miscommunication and so much misunderstanding around me. And I want for those people to be able to use the proper discernment so that they can make amends with the relationships in their life. At the end of the day, we are very important to each other. We're important to our loved ones. Our loved ones are important to us. And so if we're willing to take the time to use our discernment and maybe decide that the person that we're upset with, or maybe if they're upset with us, maybe we stop, think, give them the benefit of the doubt, trust that we care about them, trust that they care about us, and tune into that love frequency, then we'll make better decisions from that place. For example, if I have a friend that I've messaged and they're not getting back to me, and I decide that I'm going to take it personally and I speculate, and I've decided that they're not getting back to me because they're upset with me. I just know it. I don't know what I did. I didn't do anything. They're not getting back to me. And then I don't reach out to them. Maybe they forget to reach out. Maybe they're busy. Well, now I've got this whole situation dreamt up in my own minds about how they're upset with me. And now I'm going to start creating bitterness within myself. I'm going to start becoming resentful and all of these other emotions that are unnecessary because I started to speculate. I started to decide that they were upset with me. I decided to take it personally. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, they don't even know that I'm doing all this, right? So using our discernment to remind ourselves, like, I don't know. And this is just an example, but reminding ourselves, I don't know why they haven't gotten back to me. And maybe they don't get back for a few days. And so rather than speculating and deciding they're upset with me, I can maybe reach out again and then say, oh, hey, I hadn't heard back from you. Probably going to get a response like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to text you back. I've been busy. Right? Meanwhile, I've exasperated all of this energy, believing that they're upset with me. I've gone through the emotional turmoil of it. I've taken myself through the ringer and ridden the roller coaster of fear and doubt and self-pity and all of the other emotions that could have been avoided by using my discernment in the first place. So there's a lot of other things going on in the world right now where we actually have our media and some of our leaders that are putting out things intentionally to help us divide ourselves amongst each other. We have to be able to discern through that. We have to be able to recognize that that's occurring, and we have to be able to stop and think and know what the truth is inside of us. Because I believe at the end of the day, the truth inside of us is that we each genuinely do care about each other, and that we want peace and we want harmony in our relationships. We want harmony amongst ourselves. I mean, more people talk about world peace than not. I think most of us, the everyday person, their goal is peace and love and unity. And so are we doing the things that are going to bring that about? Am I embodying those things so that I am a part of that healing for myself, others, the collective? And that's where using our discernment comes in, so that we haven't made any false accusations towards our others, false decisions when it comes to speculating. And so if we can go ahead and remember that it's important to stop, decide that we don't know when we truly don't know, just remind ourselves we don't know, then we can go ahead and find out for what's really going on. We can have the conversation with our friend, our family member, a place of business, and then go from there and have a real conversation. And that will usually have a much better outcome than somebody deciding that they know what's going on when we really don't know what's going on. Also, another thing I wanted to touch on was what we consume spiritually. So what we're consuming spiritually is of great importance. And there's a lot of teachings out there currently that are more divisive than unifying. And that's becoming a concern for me. So I wanted to go ahead and speak on that. I've got a couple of minutes until I've got to go to break. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. It's a beautiful day here in Oregon. I am up in Oregon and our clouds are coming. The weather's cooling off. I'm excited about fall. I'm excited that you're here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to come and speak to you. And you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio, a network that brings a lot of positive messages that I'm proud to be a part of. And this is Trish with Pure Intuitive Talk, and I'll catch you in a few minutes. Hi, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Pure Intuitive Talk. I'm your host, Trish Smith, and you're tuned into Transformation Talk Radio. So we're talking about discernment today and how discernment is the key to your authenticity. With that in mind, if we imagine and just consider, if we're making a place, if we're taking the time to make a decision from the place of discernment, that is going to grow our authenticity. Because when we're making decisions from outside sources, that's not coming from our authentic selves. And when we're making decisions based on speculations, that also is not coming from our authentic self. That's not coming from within. That's not coming from our connection to the divine. And we haven't prayed on it. We haven't listened for guidance. And then we're making decisions from there. So you can see how that would create a lack of authenticity if we're not tuning into ourselves, tuning into center, stepping back, making sure we're not speculating, and then making decisions from there. It's easy to see how, yes, that's not coming from an authentic place. However, if we do tune in, we can make decisions from that authentic place, growing our authenticity, growing ourselves, our being, our spirit, and moving in a way that helps not only ourselves, but others around us and the collective as a whole, which is part of the importance of doing our own work, is so that we bring our best selves to the collective, therefore raising the vibration of the collective. Before we went to break, I was touching on how some of the modern teachings are creating division, and that's just my opinion. So some of the teachings that I see when I'm scrolling around through social media are things about boundaries, which we can appreciate. However, I've seen a lot of different memes and teachings about abandoning, and these aren't their language, but abandoning people that are having a hard time. So maybe a meme says something about like not having to be around people that have negative or low energy, and only hanging out with people that have high or good energy. And let's be honest, there are times in all of our lives where we are that person. There are times in my life where I have gone through depression. I've gone through major depression. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. I have functional neurological disorder. I've also got a couple of other disorders, but we won't go there today. So sometimes I'm the low person. Sometimes maybe you're the low person. And I think when we're having those hard times, if we do our best to not get it on others, yes, we want to do that. However, I don't appreciate people teaching the collective that we should abandon the people having a hard time, because let's be real, we will all be in that position at one point, at least in our lives, where we are the person having a hard time. We are the person who suffered a great loss and we don't know how to wade through it. And so maybe we're the downer, maybe we're the Eeyore. And so if we're in a good place in our lives and we're listening to these teachings about staying away from the negative, staying away from the low vibe in people, what's going to happen then when we're having that hard time and we've abandoned the people that were having their hard time? They're probably not going to come and support us during our low time, our low energy, our low vibe time, if we've abandoned them and theirs. And I don't know that that anybody wants to be the person who's then abandoned when they are the person having a hard time. So that being said, that's why I don't appreciate some of the teachings out there right now. And I believe that they're causing division, because every single one of us is a human being. Now, I can appreciate that there are definitely people in our lives that are abusive or they're absolutely toxic. And yes, setting very hard boundaries with them or walking away from them is very important. However, that should be part of the teachings, the wholeness of the teaching. I believe that we're missing that part of the teaching. And so that is a good area to practice discernment in, practicing discernment in the teachings that we see out there, so that we can make sure our lives are in alignment with what we believe inside of our own spirits to be true and what we want in our lives. And if we want separation and we want division, then that's a great route to take. We can, only hang out with the positive people. Oh, geez, sorry. Sometimes they're not going to be positive one day. Then what are we going to do? Right. Or we can decide that life is so much. It's so much good, so much bad, right? We can label things good and bad, but life is what it is. And we're all going to have times of ease and we're all going to have times of struggle. And so my goal is that we use our times of having a hard time to restore ourselves, yes, and do our best not to get it on others. But at the same time, we should be being reached out to. If we know someone's down, I think we should be reaching out. And if we are down, we can reach out still in spite of our own pain and suffering, and make sure that we keep our own connections going. It's easy when we're suffering from depression to not reach out to our friends and our family and keep those connections alive. And so then when they dwindle away, we're upset that we've lost those connections. So it's important to remember how to maintain connections, and using our discernment, bringing about our own authenticity can help our relationships, because when we're authentic with one another, we get to have that real connection. And then we get the real reward and the real benefit of feeling seen and feeling heard and feeling supported. And I would imagine that most of us want that. Most of us want to feel seen and heard and supported. So sometimes there's also that wolf in sheep's clothing, right? So there's a lot of things going on nowadays where it looks like it's good on the outside, but if you really start to dig under the layers, it's divisive. And that is one of those teachings that I believe is just that. When you start looking at it and you start practicing it. So what happens when we have a collective of people practicing staying away from anything that they don't agree with, staying away from anything that doesn't feel good to them? I'm sorry, but I've been alive 46 years now, and there's a lot of things on this planet and in this world and in my world that feel really good to me. And there's a lot of things that don't. And that's just a part of it. And if I try avoiding everything that doesn't feel good to me, I'm going to, first of all, be starting to build walls, starting to build bitterness, and starting to not feel comfortable in my own skin if I'm spending my energy protecting myself and avoiding anything that doesn't feel good, because it's just not realistic. That being said, also using our discernment, we have to make sure that when we're in those places of having a hard time, that we're not making major decisions from those places. So I like to remind myself, if I am experiencing a lot of emotional turmoil, very deep pain, that I don't make major decisions from that place. So that being said, when we take the time to recognize, oh, wait, I'm having a hard time emotionally, there's a decision that feels like I should make it, right? It's like, oh, I'm fed up with this. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Is that the time to be making that decision? Possibly not. However, sometimes things are so difficult, or in a relationship is toxic or it's abusive. And in that emotional upset, those feelings can arise. And maybe that's a good place to move from. If we're not in an abusive or a toxic relationship, and we're having emotions that stir up, it's time to sit down and look at them when we're not experiencing them. And that's using our discernment. So let the emotions arise, look at them, but we're not making the decision from that place. That will help with using our discernment. That's just another tool to help us create and develop the skill of using our discernment. So let's see, I've got my notes here. So sometimes if we're speculating and we're getting into our own heads and we're in that emotional upset, what's going to happen is we're afraid and we're confused. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want to make a decision from a place where we're afraid and confused? Or do we want to make a decision from a place where we have taken the time to look at everything, weigh out the benefits, weigh everything, and then make a decision from there? So with that being said, I'm seeing something that is a little bit concerning for me, and I wanted to talk on it because I believe that it's really important that we take the time to pray, and I believe that it's really important that we take the time to to gather. And so what I've witnessed in the last maybe 10 years or so is that the younger generations are not drawn to churches, and there's very good reason for that, and I can see it, but I'm afraid that we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And so the younger generation, they're using their discernment, right? Maybe they're looking at the churches and they see the dogma and they don't want a part of that. But at the end of the day, they are younger generations that are coming behind us. They still need to know that their connection to the divine is very important, and hanging on to that connection and having that place where you can sit and listen to Spirit, and you can speak with Spirit, and you can obtain guidance from other sources when we go within. If they're not receiving those teachings, then they're going to not have that in their lives. So that being said, we're going to go to a break for a minute. My name is Trish Smith, and I'm your host for Pure Intuitive Talk. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. We'll dive back into that some more when we get back from our break. Thank you for listening. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. You're listening to Pure Intuitive Talk. I'm your host, Trish Smith, and today we are talking about discernment. It's a super fun subject, and we're all having a great time. Lots of laughs. Just kidding. Sorry. Sorry. Now I'm just cracking myself up. Anyways, it's a very important topic, and it's not something that everybody wants to talk about, but it's so important that we take the time to start talking about all of the things that we don't want to talk about. That's my personal opinion. And one of those to me is what we were talking about before I went to break, was that the churches have so much value. Like, there's so much value in a church setting. There's fellowship, and there's worship, and there's prayer, and there's a lot of learning that can happen. And I believe that it's unfortunate with, like, for myself, one of the things that turns me off from the churches is the dogma. And so I can appreciate that these younger generations are looking at it like, I don't want your dogma. I don't. But what comes in then? What I would personally like to see is churches kind of reconfiguring and recognizing how they're turning off this younger generation, because the younger generations behind us, like, they need the fellowship, and they need us to show them the importance of getting on our knees and listening and speaking and having that connection and that divine romance with Spirit. And I don't want to witness these younger generations lose that. But I also can absolutely appreciate what a turnoff going to church can be for them because of the dogma, and they see through it. And I would love to see the churches acknowledge that, and maybe make some adjustments, and make the younger generations feel welcome there, and get rid of all of the old rules and the dogma, and allow it to be a space where people really can gather and not feel judged. Because that's what the church was designed to be, was a place that people could come and worship and have fellowship and lean on each other, and learn about listening to God, and so, or their higher power, or whatever word you want to use for it. And I would love to see all of us tuning into, even, older generations, tuning into Spirit, listening to Spirit, and asking for guidance and how we can turn around to the ones behind us and guide them into their spiritual walk with Source. So I myself have had a few really amazing mentors in my life that have taught me how to pray in different ways. I've learned how to clear energy from different backgrounds. I'm a yoga instructor, and so I've studied yoga, and I've studied shamanic sound healing, and I've also attended Christian churches. So I've been able to gather all of these tools and these resources, and I'm grateful for all of it. I personally value and appreciate all religions, and I know that there's so much gold in there. And it just, to me, feels like a shame that the younger generations aren't going to get to experience the benefit of having those types of communities if it's a turnoff for them. So also too, I know so many people find that place in nature, and maybe that's a great place for our younger generations to start. But really, it's important that we remind each other of who we are. And so I don't think that any of us are not mirroring for one another what we are inside. We are all spiritual beings. And when we forget that, and we're showing up as a face, as when we're showing up with each other like flesh to flesh, and forgetting that the other person has deep feelings and deep desires, and that we each have a purpose, and we're forgetting that our destiny is that we are serving one another, that we are helping one another, and that we are helping ourselves. And I think for myself, that's my appreciation of Jesus and Buddha. It's like you have these two beautiful teachers that showed us so much. And for me, it feels important that we encompass all of their teachings, that yes, we turn within, and yes, we heal ourselves, because let's be honest, at the end of the day, the only person that can heal ourselves is us. Other people, like myself, practicing as a life coach and serving as a medium, yes, I can assist someone in their healing journey. Absolutely. And I love doing it. And I'm grateful to witness the rewards and the benefits that my clients experience. But at the end of the day, they're the only person that can heal themselves. And so if we can recognize that we are the only person that can heal ourselves from within, and that comes from our connection to love, right? That comes from growing, fostering, cultivating the love within us, letting that spread out into each other, and experiencing that as a collective, and coming together and supporting each other. Then we're making that discernment. We're making the decisions from the place within ourselves that is authentic, because our authentic self is of the light. We are light beings. Can't avoid it. We can decide that we're not all day, that we're just this flesh. But the truth of the matter is that we are a spirit. We are a light being inside of this flesh vessel. And sometimes when we've experienced so much life, and life has handed us so many cards that we don't want to have to deal with, and it's hard, and we've hit our rock bottom, and we're struggling, and we're reaching out for connection, and we don't even know how, we have to decide in those moments, can we trust ourselves? And there have been times in my life where I've suffered great loss, and I'm grieving so hard that I have to recognize I can't even trust my own decision-making in those times. And so it's important that we do have the relationships that we've developed with our people, that maybe we can lean on them, or we can then go ahead and start seeking guidance outside of ourselves. That can look like a therapist, that can look like a counselor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a life coach, a shamanic practitioner, any one of those titles. But the important part is that when we are in a position where we know, because we've used our discernment, that we cannot trust our own decision-making because we're in such a scary place, that we are seeking wise counsel. We're not just seeking counsel. We are seeking wise counsel. If we are in a tough place and we are seeking counsel from a friend, and then that friend starts speculating, and then we follow her down him down the rabbit hole of their speculation, now we've been taken on a wild ride that we didn't need to go on. And now we're in a further and further bad place than where we started. So we have to make sure that the person that we're seeking guidance from is a trustworthy source, that they're in a place and they're in a position to offer us guidance that we can trust and that we can rely on. So my message to you here is that pay attention to the guidance that you have looked for that you are bringing into your life? Is that guidance causing more division in your life? Or is that guidance helping you to find unity and to find peace and to experience love and joy? So that for me is giving you a clue into whether or not the therapist, life coach, shamanic practitioner, whoever you're working with, there is your clue. If you're working with this person and you're seeing them every week and the results in your life are becoming, oh my goodness, my relationships seem to be dwindling away and people are running in the other direction and I'm feeling more and more alone, that's not wise counsel. It's just not. I'm sorry, but it's just not wise counsel. If you are working with someone that is guiding you and your life starts to feel more whole and you start to feel more full and your love starts flowing over and now you are the person that's able to spread, your capacity so big that you're helping others and you're able to have a good night's sleep and feel good about yourself, then you know that the person that you're working with is an excellent source. You can trust them. You can trust their guidance. But it's important at the end of the day that me, you, we ourselves use our discernment, especially when we're seeking wise counsel, because there's going to be times in all of our lives that we do need to seek wise counsel. And there are so many incredible mentors out there and people that have gained the wisdom, and it's our job to pay attention to whether or not we should be taking in their guidance. I personally have looked toward people in my life that have gone before me that have done a good job at it. So like people in their parenting skills or even their work skills, like, are they killing it? Are they nailing it? Are they doing a good job at it? Let me emulate them. Let me use them for a model. And turn that around, I also try to make sure that I am living my life as an example and being a model for others so that they can too maybe have something to go by, give them that roadmap, right? So that's what we're here for. We're here to be the lamp holders for one another and also remind each other of the importance of our connections with one another. So it is time for me to go to a break again. I've got another minute and then we'll be heading into our last segment. So you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. I'm your host, Trish Smith, and you're listening to Pure Intuitive Talk. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Pure Intuitive Talk. I am your host, Trish Smith, and this is Transformation Talk Radio. A couple of things after we just came back from our break. I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to these messages. These messages come through me. I am a medium, and so God will channel things through me or our higher power, whatever you want to call it. It's something that I've experienced my whole life. I know that we all have that ability. So I like to tune in. It's important to me that I listen to that voice, and using my own discernment is very important in my practice because I have to be able to discern what spirit I'm listening to and what spirit I'm hearing. So in my practice, when I'm serving as a medium, I have to be able to discern what is coming from what I would call the voice of God. And I also have to be able to tune into somebody's ancestors and decipher or distinguish who's who. And then I also have to be able to distinguish what is my own thought, what is possibly my own speculation or my own flavor, right? And so I have to use my discernment a lot, especially in my practice. Like I said, I need to be able to show up for my clients with clear messages when I'm working with them. And so using discernment is a very, very, very important, big component in my life, which is probably why I felt the need and call to also being called by Spirit to talk on discernment for the collective. One of the reasons is that I'm experiencing and witnessing a lot of people not using discernment. When I look around and I witness what's going on in the world today, not only in the collective, but in smaller circles and in communities, that people are just they're taking a piece of information and they're running with it, and they're not stopping to look at it and dissect it and decide whether or not it's of value and it should have some of their attention, because our attention is our money, right? That is our investment, and where we're investing our attention is what's going to grow. And if we're not using our discernment, we could accidentally end up growing stuff that we don't want to grow. So again, it's not, I can't express how important it is to make sure that we're using our discernment. It can be kind of tricky, right? So some of the things I'm seeing on social media are videos where they're like, yeah, you're gonna die, and like, they give these time frames, like 10 days later this person's gonna replace your job and they're not gonna worry about you anymore. And then it's like, another meme that says like, you are so valuable and you are everything. And so there's two truths, right? Because there is truth in both of them. And so we're living in a world where we have these opposing truths. And so if we're not capable of discerning and deciding what truth we want to live in, then we're going to feel confused and we're going to end up becoming divided amongst ourselves. Something silly that I'd like to point out is that every guru is human. That's something that I like to remind myself. And so although there's so much value, I mean, I'm not kidding you. I follow some people on social media that are just incredible beings of light that are spreading the most beautiful messages. And I'm so grateful for some of these platforms, and I get to have that in my life. But it's also important for me to remind myself that every guru is only human, right? Like they're only human. They're going to experience bad days, good days, or hard days, easy days, however you want to call it. And that we are also our own guru. There's a saying that says we're each a guru in charge of a mental patient. And I don't think that can be more true, because all of us carry wisdom, and then we also carry our own neuroses, right? So it's important that we do our soul gardening. It's important that we take the time to recognize when the energies in ourselves are off, they're not good. Get rid of those energies, however you use your clearing techniques to do, and that we cultivate the joy and cultivate the bliss in our connections, so that we make sure we're making decisions from a pure place within ourselves. Also, too, when we're working with our other people, making sure that we are holding a calm objectivity. So we want to make sure that we are looking at everything. We can help the people around us. We can help ourselves by remaining calm and being objective, that we can look at all of it and make decisions from the place of discernment, where we've taken that step back and we've weighed it all out, and we can go from there. I also wanted to talk on consciously choosing compassion, respect, and equanimity. I believe that using our discernment is going to consciously grow that specifically. Choosing the compassion, choosing to live from a place of respecting others and valuing others, and valuing equanimity. I cannot say that 3 times fast. Don't ask me to try. Anyways, there's a short story that I wanted to read to you guys about, and I didn't want to mess it up, and I'm sure that most of you have heard it, but in the Xhosa tribe in Africa, they have a saying, a word specifically, and it's Ubuntu. I want to read this short story. It says, an anthropologist proposed a game to the kids in an African tribe. He put a basket full of fruit near a tree and told the kids that whoever got there first won the sweet fruits. When he told them to run together, they sat together enjoying their treats. When he asked them why they had run like that, as one could have all of the fruits for themselves, they said, Ubuntu. And I may not be pronouncing that correctly, so please forgive me if you know the correct, how to say it, sorry. Ubuntu, how can one of us be happy if all of the other ones are sad? Sorry, that'll make me cry, I get emotional. Anyways, Ubuntu in Xhosa culture means I am because we are. And I would personally, because I am a citizen of the United States, I live here, I would personally love to witness that in our culture here. I love what those children are teaching that anthropologist. I would love to witness us gaining that wisdom that when one of us is suffering, all of us are suffering. I don't know about you, but personally, when my people are having a hard time, I'm having a hard time. I'm sad. I don't want to witness them having a hard time. So for myself, I reach out to them. I support them. I have friends that reach out to me and support me. I couldn't be more grateful for that. I could not be more grateful for that. And I do believe that all of us deserve to have that. So Ubuntu, gosh, I hope I'm saying it correctly. But please, if we can start practicing that, and maybe not, I know we text a lot, but maybe not resolving to texting all the time and picking up the phone and hearing one another's voices. I believe that will be an excellent way to bring back some of our connections that maybe are starting to feel frazzled, and maybe the ends of our connections are starting to feel cold, and we start drawing back and we're coming into ourselves and we're creating these protective layers. And then what's happening? We're feeling alone. We're feeling like we're not a part of what's really going on in the world. And I understand that we've spent the last 3 years dividing, that we had to go into hiding some people. They were afraid of catching COVID. And so, but we have to pay attention, right? We have to use our discernment. Okay, yes, we don't want to get sick, but how can we make sure that we're not losing our connections? How can we make sure that we're holding each other, we're touching each other, right? And we've been through this now. It's been 3 years later, and those connections are coming back online. But we'd lost so much ground over the first year or two that it's taking some time. And I believe that people are purging. What I'm witnessing at this time in history is people purging all of their own fears. And if we start using our discernment, we can be careful enough to not get that on other people, right? We all experienced a lot of fear for one reason or another over the last 3 years. And now we're wrestling with that. We had to look at ourselves in the mirror, and maybe we don't like what we see, and maybe we have changes to make. Maybe we learned some of our relationships weren't as healthy as they were. But we have to do our part, right? Be the change you want to see, be the friend you want to have, be the love you want to see in the world. So we have to embody the things that we want in our lives, and using our discernment will bring us into an authentic place within our own spirit, and that will help guide us into becoming a part of the collective that we want to be a part of. So it's definitely, heal within for world peace. If you want world peace, we have to heal ourselves first. And to heal ourselves, we have to look at ourselves. We have to make decisions from the place of discernment. We have to become more and more authentic, because the world needs you to be you. The world doesn't need you to be anybody else. The world needs me to be me. We all struggle with it, right? We all feel like we're not good enough and that we're not doing our best, but we are. And if we're not, then we'll step it up. We'll get after ourselves, right? That's our job, to parent that inner child. That's our job, to care for that inner child and bring that inner child into being the love and light that we were experiencing as a child. Hopefully, most of us in our childhood got to have plenty of joy and felt safe. So we'll go ahead and finish up our show. It's the end of our hour together. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on discernment, and I hope that everybody is enjoying their day. Thank you for listening to Transformation Talk Radio. I'm your host, Trish Smith, and you're listening to Pure Intuitive Talk. Thank you for listening to Pure Intuitive Talk with me, Trish Smith, your Pure Intuitive Guide. Come back and join us for encouragement to take responsibility and to connect to your whole being. Remember that every moment is the right moment to choose peace, acceptance, and forgiveness. We all have the courage to look deep within, get real with ourselves, and make upgrades to our ways of interacting with the world. It's been my privilege to share this hour with you. For more information about me, go to pureintuitiveguide.com. That's pureintuitiveguide.com. Thanks again, and we will see you here next time on Transformation Talk Radio.